I'm going to go over 2 techniques today that are very good this time of the year, summertime. Fish are starting to move out on ledges and starting to move out a little bit deeper. Also, trying to school up. Some lakes, they don't really school up. This year, we've actually seen a couple of schools already this year, which is very promising on Kentucky Lake. We haven't really had a good ledge bite in a while for being a ledge lake, but these are 2 of my favorite techniques to catch them. Number 1 is just classic spoon. This is a smaller spoon. This is a 4-inch river to sea. I normally don't get into throwing the big guys, the big 6, 8, 10-inch spoons until a little bit later in the year. Later in the summer, at least. Normally beginning of the summer. This is normally the size that I like to throw. This is a 4-inch. Like I said, later in the year, another couple of weeks, maybe a month. Middle of the summer, I'll throw these bigger guys. There's 2 brands that I really like. I really like the River to Sea. For some reason, they make a really good spoon. And can't go wrong with the classic nickels. I don't have any in the boat right now. I do in the shop, but too lazy to walk in there. Also, Strike King makes a decent one. These are a lot slimmer. This actually is the same length, but the Strike King is a lot slimmer. So, kind of personal preference. Normally on these spoons, I have this right now, the smaller spoon, on a Dobbins 765. This is a 7.6, pretty heavy action rod. I got this paired with a Dawia TWS. And the gear ratio, I feel like, is very important on a spoon. This is a 7:3 to 1. I like a faster gear ratio for a spoon and for the other technique I'm about to talk about, because you got to be able to catch up your line. You got to be able to, when you feel the bite on the fall, to be able to reel down, pick up your slack line, and swing on these fish. I caught a couple of fish on a spoon last summer. I didn't throw it a whole lot because I kept getting frustrated, because throwing a big spoon, you will lose a lot of fish. It's a lot. I mean, this is a 2-ounce spoon. It's all in one part of the bait, all this weight is. So you will lose a lot of fish because of how heavy the weight is. If they come up and jump 7 times out of 10 on a spoon, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose a lot of fish on a spoon. Really like this combo here. Pretty stiff rod, got a lot of backbone. You're throwing that spoon and you're ripping it. You're ripping it super hard off the bottom. The longer rod, the more line you're going to get off the bottom. And throwing a spoon is very situational for me. Normally, if they're on ledges, on a flat, whatever, but they're not sitting right on the bottom. If they're tucked on the bottom, you can pretty much forget throwing a spoon, because what you're doing, you're not just sitting there cranking it, like crankbait. You're not digging in the mud. You're ripping it off the bottom with, the whole rod. Rip it, and you're letting it flutter back down. You're trying to catch those suspended fish, that are anywhere from 2 to 6, 7 foot off the bottom, 6, 7, 8 foot off the bottom. It's kind of very situational. Normally, you can use that to fire up a school, or, if you're on them, you can just use it, just wax them on it. But not going to catch a lot of small fish. You're mainly going to catch the big fish out of the school. And the only bad thing about that is it's kind of like throwing a big crankbait. You might blow out your school before you catch, a lot of fish in your school, unless it's just a giant, 15, 20, 30 fish school, which I haven't really been seeing happen a lot on Kentucky Lake these past couple of years. Normally if they school up, it's 5, 6 fish maybe on a school. That is a big spoon. That is a killer in the summertime. A lot of people throw it on bridge pilings. You know, there's a lot of bridges on Kentucky Lake running down south. A lot of people rip them off of bridge pilings. Catch some giants. Catch some studs on a spoon. I caught 3 last summer on it that were all over, 3 to 5 pound range. Also lost a lot of fish, like I said. Another technique, I actually don't have this rigged up right now, but classic hair jig. A very big staple on TVA lakes, Tennessee River lakes, and just ledge lakes all across the country. I'm very particular. There's only 2 or 3 brands that I throw. JKH has a really, really, really good hair jig. Also, there's a lot of companies making hair jigs now. I throw a lot of I think it's called the Cumberland River Pro, the Cumberland Pro. They make a really good hair jig. And also, another company, I can't think of the name right now, come in a blue and white package. But a hair jig is I'm very particular about my hair jigs. You can watch a lot of videos, hear a lot of different people say stuff. It's how I like to fish it. I have another 7.6, but this is a medium action Denali. This rod has been through it, as you can see, kind of an older rod. 7.6 medium action. This is a swimbait rod, like a scrounger head swimbait rod. This is not like your big mag draft rod. This is a 7.6 medium action. Very important. I like a little bit lighter line on my hair jig. I normally throw 12. I try to stick with 12. Right now I have 15 on. Kind of depends on your depth. A lot of people will throw 10 to 12 pound on a hair jig. They say it helps it sink slower, and that's fine, but if it's 12 or 15, fluorocarbon normally is very invisible. Can't see it in the water. You might as well go with your extra strength, especially if you're fishing on cover of any kind, or, big rocks, big chunk rocks, stuff like that. Because most of the time, your fish on a hair jig, if they're, I throw a hair jig when they're anywhere from a foot to, same thing, 5, 6, 7 foot off the bottom. Because there's normally three good ways to fish it. But most of the time, these fish are either going to wait for it to come right in front of their mouth, or when you stroke it up or reel it up, they're going to follow it down and hit it on the fall. So I really don't think that line weight has much to do with it. This is a Dawia CG80, 7:5:1 gear ratio. Pretty standard. Same thing as a spoon. I like a faster gear ratio for hair jig because, there's, like I said, there's 3 types of ways generally fish a hair jig. Some people fish like a spoon. Some people stroke a hair jig. A lot of times I don't do that unless I'm trying to get some fish fired up, or they're higher up in the water. If they're lower in the water, like I said, that 1 to 2 foot off the bottom range, a really good way to do it is fishing like a crankbait. Burn it, give it 4, 5, 6 really good casts, and just let it sink. Let it slow sink to the bottom. Normally 2.5 seconds when you're cranking is about your fall time. It's kind of what I'm around. If you're fishing for fish that are more oriented on the bottom, a lot of people crank, click their bail, let their bait fall super fast to the bottom. I don't generally do that. I'll normally, if I'm cranking, crank, let it fall on a semi-tight line. If you let your bail go, slack line. Now also, another thing a couple people have started doing is, I'll pull some line out so I can better show this. Let their hair jig hit the bottom, but pull the rod up, give it, kind of hop it, and then just dead stick, just let it sink. 99% of the time you get a bite on a hair jig, it's going to be on the fall. Normally they watch that bait shoot up, And then when it goes down, hair will spread out a little bit, kind of like a jig. A lot of people stroke it like a jig. And it'll just slow flutter down to the bottom. Normally they'll pick it up on the fall. There's not a whole lot of cases that I've seen where they don't hit it on the fall. In my eyes, I caught a good amount of fish last summer on a hair jig. A pretty new technique to me still. I'm still trying to figure out the kinks in it, but it's how I like to do it. I've asked a lot of people about it. Asked a lot of old Kentucky Lake guys, that grew up in the hair jig era, I guess you could say. Grew up throwing them a lot. And this technique I found, there's a lot of people that like a heavier rod. There's a couple people I know that throw it on like a 7.6 or even an 8-foot rod, like a medium heavy, a heavier rod. It's all just about preference. Normally on the slider rod, you can feel the bite on the fall a little bit better, especially with a little bit lighter line. Normally I throw 15. I know some people that throw 17 or 20. I know a lot of people that throw 10 to 12. It's all just personal preference, as it is with any combo pretty much. But 2 Kentucky Lake staples, spoon, don't have it on, hair jig. I'm very particular about my hair jigs. Normally I try to go with a white and a little bit of gray, look like a shad, or I'll go white with like a single either feather or a couple strands of chartreuse. Give a little pop. Depends on my watercolor. If I'm fishing very clean water, I'll normally go just with that white with a little bit of gray or pure white. If I'm fishing a little bit more stained water, I'll go with that little bit of chartreuse on there. Gives a little extra flash. But really, these are two really good techniques to catch suspended fish. And it's all about personal preference. That's my setups I like to throw on them. I'm normally very particular about my setups. My jig rod, I like a little bit of a lighter jig rod. I throw a 733 dobbins. A lot of people throw, if they're throwing a dobbins, 734, 735. The 733 a little bit lighter, but I feel like it counteracts. Also, I know a lot of people that throw a spoon on a big swimbait rod, like a 7.6 or 8-foot, medium or medium heavy action, because you can get that rod to bend a little bit more, a little bit easier to fight them. It's kind of the same with throwing a big swimbait. There's a lot of people that throw a big swimbait. Me personally, I throw a mag draft normally on monofilament because you have a little bit extra stretch, a little bit extra fight, especially when you're throwing that big, heavy action, extra heavy, whatever. You have a little bit more extra give for the fish. Normally a little bit more forgiving. But that is it for me today. I wanted to go over a couple really good techniques. I plan on coming out with a couple more technique videos because, like I said earlier, I'm normally very particular about how I like my techniques. I can do like a drop shot and a Ned rig video sometime this week. Texas rig and a jig video sometime this week or next week, probably next week, because those are staple deep water fishing. I can do like a big worm, 10-inch worm, and a Carolina rig video next week. If y'all would like to see that, just let me know. I don't have a problem giving out some information. I by no means know everything. There's a lot of information that I've taken in from YouTube videos, talking to older guys that grew up on Kentucky Lake, a lot of people that have spent a lot of time on the water. So if there's any techniques that y'all like if there's any other different way you like to throw these techniques, let me know. I'm always open to new suggestions. But I guess I'll see y'all here in a couple of days. I'm going to release a couple more videos this week, going over some different techniques, like I said. And I guess I'll see y'all at these later videos. Peace.